All right, this is the way I'm looking at it right now. I've been working through getting the setup, and this is the way I've figured out. And so I took this is a newer version of the model file that I've been working on. So in this, like all my switch assignments and everything is done through logic switches. So I've got a logic switch for arm, for motor idle, for auto, for motor on, and profile 1, 2, 3, governor. And that's the pass through. That's the switch enabled pass through. Rescue, I'm not using that, but it's there. Black box on, not using that right now, but remote glow. And then this is just some leftover stuff from electrics, a battery check. But so I have my switches set here. So I assign the switch position like for profile 1, and I can put them anywhere that way. And I just use the logic switch in inputs or in mixes when I'm setting that up. So with that said, so I did that, and then I use vars, so like global variables or variables, and I use that for idle. So I've got a value here that's set up for idle, and I've got that set to, I've got values set different for the main, which this works with the normal curve is the idle point. I'm using that as the adjustment. Then I've got motor auto and motor idle, and I've got different variables that for each one of those, and I've got them incrementing as I adjust them. So in each one of the positions, I can independently adjust the idle. In my switch layouts right now, I have this for arm. So I have this switch for motor arm. I have this switch for run, auto, and then motor off. Right now I've got the flight modes tied for all the way up as governor, and then anything below that is direct throttle. My switch close here on this one. So, yep. So as far as, and then my profiles are over here. So arm here, and then profiles here. This controls my motor, my engine controls are these 3 switches. So I've got that set up, the variables, and then I set up under flight modes. I have 2 flight modes, one flight mode for direct throttle, one flight mode for governor. Going to mixes. So now I've got a direct throttle mix, and this is an ethos. It's like inputs and mixes combined together. So I've got a direct throttle and then a governed throttle. So on direct throttle, I've got a throttle cut, and that's active condition of when right now when it's armed, but I could assign that to a different switch, or excuse me, when it's not armed. Then I've got throttle hold, and then I'm using that as the idle. Okay, and then I've got in flight modes, I've got it set up for the direct throttle. Curve, I've got a normal curve set, and I'm going to arm it so it'll show up. So I've got a normal curve set. When I adjust my idle, it adjusts the low point of that curve here. Then I've got my V curve set for the others. Then on my govern mode, so when I flip that up, now I'm in throttle gov. I still have my normal throttle curve to spool up. It works properly. Idle adjustment still works there as well. And I don't have to adjust it separately for the different flight modes. I've got it set to where it's working across both flight modes. So with this, I've got, as far as the curves, I've got my normal curve, and then I've got motor on. So when I go here, motor on, it goes to 100% throttle, the old way like we used to run. But I can adjust that if I want to in the future, and I could use the like fallback curve if that's the way it ends up setting up working. So with that, now what I've got, and so I played around. I'm trying to understand like in the CLI what the idle means. Idle, like the only way I can get the governor state to go into idle is to increase the throttle. So if I'm disarmed, I've got it tied to arm now. So now it's killing the motor when I disarm. This is not the way I've been running Rotorflight, but this is, I'm trying a new setup and trying to look at it differently. So I'll arm it. This is going to slow spool up. So I'm in, right now I've got motor on, so I'm gonna turn motor off. I would arm it. So I'm in idle for that. I can adjust that here. And then if I just wanted to take off, I just throw it in the motor on and it's gonna go into govern mode. And as I bring the RPMs up, it'll go into spool up and then active. And so that's working like normal, and I can take off in the profile. Now, when I switch back to throttle, when I switch back to the normal mode in profile 1, it's delayed getting there. Should be okay, but it does work. So the throttle's now working off of that, but it's a little slow switching over to it. That did something different. Oh, that's because of yeah, it went back quick, but that was just because it recovered throttle. And that's working off that's because it was like, I had it at like 1600. Okay, so that's govern mode. So I'll be able to take off in profile 1. It'll take off in profile 1. I'll drop back down. So profile 1, be able to take off with direct throttle, then flip into govern mode. Okay. Now, then by flipping this switch, I'm going to go into direct throttle mode. Then I have normal mode, or normal curve. I have V curve, and then 3 is V curve also. Then I've got my auto rotation. So I'm sending the auto rotation signal over at the same time. It doesn't show up here in governor state back from the flybarless, but I'm sending that signal for auto rotation and dropping it down to the idle value that I set with the trim. So see, if I set it here to 80, I flip up, that's 86. So I can adjust these independently. The idle, the auto rotation, and then on the V curve, where it's here, I can adjust that. So this is the configuration that I'm looking at right now, is that I would have the ability to, based on a flight mode, have a governed flight mode. So I flip that up. Now, profile 1 works like a normal curve, so I can take off and get it in the air, check it out, everything, then flip to 2, which is governed. Then flip up, and then when I come in land, I just hit the auto switch. It'd be fine to land. But when I go to take off again, go back to that, or just from the idle, be able to just throw the switch and take off that way with a slow spool up. So it's kind of it's doing everything there. As far as like the idle, I'm not sure how to use the idle in the CLI yet. The only way I've found to be able to activate it is via throttle. So my throttle 90% is what I'm sending to the FBL. So once I get down to all the way off, I'm at barrel close, no pressure on the linkages, off. But in order to get it to come back to idle, I have to raise it 5% from the transmitter side. And then it starts coming back as telemetry from the FBL. But this is the only way I've been able to figure out how to get the governor state into idle, is to raise the throttle. But that said, I've got it working this way, Not sure what the CLI is, how that's doing. I've not seen anything happen with putting a value in that idle. Like I think it said min throttle for idle. But yeah, I just wanted to share what I'm looking at and how I'm kind of thinking through the setup would be to have a governor, flight mode, and then have normal mode that I can take off in, or that I can spool up and take off, and then I can flip to the govern mode, and then I have, once I do that, I have just flying it like regular governor. On a nitro, I don't care about having different head speeds. I set it to the what I feel like is the ideal head speed and leave it. So I could have profile 2 and profile 3 for different rates, or different governor tunes as we're testing this, or maybe like rev max on 2 and 3 be full governed. So I'm still playing through like how that is. So that's with the switch up. But the example I gave earlier was like throttle servo gets weird or muffler comes loose, you hear a change. What I would like to be able to do is fall back to the pass through. And I've also, so this switch I'm using for two things. I'm using it to set the flight mode from govern to direct throttle, but I'm also using it to send over on a separate channel the what you set it through modes is sending the signal over for the pass-through disable. So I'm using it dual purpose there. The flight modes is what's selecting the throttle curve, and it's also sending out on the channel, and I can show that here. Yeah, so I've got governor and auto rotation. So I'm sending that over, the governor and the auto rotation. Just on the V curve, so that's doing that. And then auto rotation, I've got it set here as well as it's changing the throttle.